I mean, that's powerful. You said some things that I won't spend more than 60 seconds on this, but it's a little thing. It's a little moment, builds into another little moment, builds into another little moment. And sitting on our leadership call earlier this week, Mo Anderson, as some of you may know, was talking about why we call our offices market centers. And she said the reason we decided to call them market centers is because we're at the center of the community, right? We don't just sell real estate. We literally bring people together in our community. That's why we're a market center. And it didn't hit me in the same way until you shared your story. So thank you. And I whispered to Bridget, I have a senior neighbor who's downsizing, who is no longer mobile. And so we are in need to get the furniture out. So I'm offering to assist with that, helping one senior neighbor turns around and helps somebody else who needs it. And it's these little moments that just build and grow on themselves. But I just thought, I never really understood that meaning behind market center versus office. To me, I come from advertising and marketing prior to real estate. I'm like, let's just make it easy. It's an office. But that was really powerful for me. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. Let's transition into coaching spotlight. Bob.
Can everybody hear me? I'll take that as a yes. Hey, let's give a shout out to everybody in the coaching program that's doing a great job. On Team Alicia, Joel Valenzuela closed his first escrow. Congratulations, Joel. And then Edward Rodriguez opened up another escrow with a buyer. Congratulations, you guys. On Team Lisa, Amanda Cook opened up her first transaction. And on Team Deborah, Blaze Lay, Barbara Sullivan are officially licensed and have joined Team Deborah, and Kevin King took his very first listing in his new growth agreement with Deborah. Congratulations, Kevin. And then Rose joined the group with Team Deborah as well, too. Congratulations, everybody. Here's your broker input for the week. Working on 2 cases right now with some mediation. And you know how every time I do a risk management meeting, I always tell everybody, have a communication log, anything that's really important, have it confirmed in an email so that you know that your principal you've had that conversation with that principal. We're working on 2 cases. One agent, unfortunately, didn't have a very good communication log. And unfortunately, we can't prove that we told them to get an inspection on something. So we'll see how that one turns out. The other agent had a really good communication log, and the attorneys that are working on it are saying that this can help us with our case tremendously and end up being not so bad in the long run. So I tell you, every week, if you have a conversation with a principal, that means your buyer or seller, that is a pretty important thing about the property, whether it needs an inspection or a secondary inspection, anything that's important, you're guiding that buyer or seller to make certain decisions. You need to confirm that conversation via an email after you've had the conversation. And the email goes, per our conversation on May 3rd, 2023, we discussed blah, 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 and you have decided not to do ABC. So anyway, that's my broker support for the day. Back to you, Jacqueline.
Yes, and I always like to say to my clients, I know you forget and we talk about a lot, so I'm just going to recap it in an email for you. Right? Sounds nice that way. Okay, movement orchids. Over here.
Good to see you. Party people. So I posted something. Actually, I texted Steve like 6 o'clock because I saw this reel and I thought it really hit home. And I posted it just now on our group page so you guys can all see it too. And we kind of talked about it for a little while during our language of real estate class.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So, all right, cool. So it goes a little something like this, and I'll just kind of summarize it. But human brains weren't meant to absorb the negative, right? We're meant to absorb positive. Like we just let's not talk about the elephant in the room. What's your came to your mind? Yeah, it's the elephant, right? So, think about like skiers, for instance, right? And this is what this guy talks about, and it was just really, really interesting how. He's talking about thinking about going down the mountain, like, and you see all these trees, and you're doing everything you can to avoid the trees. What's eventually gonna happen? You're gonna hit a tree. Okay, oh, I did, but if I'm a skier, you're gonna eventually bump into one. So if you just focus on the path, right, and just keep your eyes on the path. Where are you gonna keep going down? You're gonna keep going down that path. You're not even gonna see the trees. And I guess what the point and how that drove home and why I'm even bringing this up is, I feel like recently, we've all been talking about trees. Like, we keep bringing up trees to our clients. And I thank God that we got sitting here today to talk about one of these things that we need to like not even worry about, right? And he's gonna educate us on this. But the less that we talk about the trees, and the more that we talk about the path that we want our clients to go down, I think the more successful we're all going to become. Stop talking about the what ifs, the little inventory, the high interest rates, right? Focus on the positive, owning a home, of getting your own place, of starting to build wealth and equity, right? You start focusing on the positives, that's what you're going to get. You keep focusing on the negatives, you're not going to get it. And you're going to scare clients away. So that was my little takeaway from this morning. I just wanted to kind of share with you because he said something that was, he turned around and he never looked back, right? He never looked at those trees. He kept his focus on the path, and it just drove home when he was speaking. So I just want to kind of bring that up and tie it in. And Cindy here is an amazing human being and my go-to guy whenever I have any kind of like wonky appraisal or valuation questions whatsoever. I think we've been working together for like 6 or 7 years at this point. And he's been here before. He's gonna be back again. He's awesome. You guys should be here in person to see this.
Yes.
But yes, I'm very, very, very happy. And I think that he is up next, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yes.
All right, I'd like to introduce you guys to Loiseau. And he is, like I said, just an amazing human being, super helpful. He will touch base on anytime you need, if you have any kind of questions about anything, but he's going to educate us on appraisals today. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Who's ready to walk on hot coals right now? I feel like the Anthony Robbins, like, I feel so good. Inspirational stories. I'm an amazing person. I mean, I don't know what's going on right now, but I'm a real estate appraiser here in San Diego. I've been doing it a while, 20 years. Getting into commercial now, so if you guys, it's a whole nother animal, but what I want to talk to you guys today about is I go to a lot of caravans, and what I'm hearing a lot of is beautiful words like price enhancements and all these other funny ways, and basically saying that we didn't hit that listing price originally, and so now we have to lower that with enhancement. Usually enhancement should be better, but it's not better, right? Before we get started, there's a concept I really want you guys to like really ingrain in your minds. Because let's say everyone today is going to sign the listing appointment, right? Everyone, right? Perfect. And the thing is like 5 years ago, probably, we had the golden gates, right? We had the MLS and no one else had the information. Now you have the Zillows, the Redfins, the whatevers that are out there that arm your sellers with information that now they feel like they're the professional, right? They're going to tell you what price to list that property at. And we're going to get into the comp data of everything and what that means. But if you're looking at sales that closed, let's say even like 3 months ago, right? And you're signing that listing appointment, and then it takes you 30 days to get that property ready for market. Then it takes you another 30 days to get that property in escrow, right? And then I come out within that next 17-day contingency period. That comp that now, when I come out 17 days in that period, is now like 6 months old. And your market is doing like this. So I think it's during COVID, it was great. You can anticipate the market going up. The market going up was easy. But now it's like when that market is going down, I like to lead with data. Emotions get played into everything. It's like really, I would encourage everyone to stop being the yes man, yes woman, yes them, and just really start to educate your clients on like what's really happening. Here's the data to support it, and then move on from there. Cool, awesome. So let's get into it. I like to kind of clean house a little bit and go over comparable data selection. I think it's super important because whenever you have a rebuttal in place, this is what appraisers are going to go off of. Not like I've heard agents tell me before, oh, I just know what people are willing to pay for. I'm like, well, that's great, but I can't tell that to Ed, right? I have to provide you with data. So when it comes to size, 20%, what that looks like is if you have a 2,000 square foot property, 20% is appraisers are only looking at comps between 1,600 square feet and 2,400 square feet. Now, if your comp is 2,401, it's probably a great comp, but it's not going to come into that 20% margin. And so this is why it's good practice to like meet the appraiser at the property, right? Right. Thank you. And I think it's important because you can provide that extra, hey, look, I know this is outside your 20% guidelines by 1 square feet, 10 or 20 square feet, but I think it's a great comp. It's in a neighborhood. Here's why I think you maybe want to use this, right? So things like that. When it says like condos 10 to 50%, if you're dealing with an 800 square foot condo, typically we're not going to go 20% margins on that, although you can, because we're dictated by what lenders want. Lenders really want you to stay tight. So stay within 10% of that. Like if it's an 800 square foot condo, try to stay within like 900 is like the tops that we're going for. Like, so 700 to 900 or something like that. And then it's a mile radius. Now a mile radius in 92103. Yes. You can ask questions whenever you want. Yeah.
Just curious, with your escrow appraisal, what percentage of them would you say that an agent does show up?
Let's say for conversation, let's say 60%. 60. Sometimes I'm okay with that, right? If I have a busy schedule, I'm like, and I love to talk, I just go in and out. But if it's a situation where I know like this is going to be tight, I'll have the conversation on the phone, like, hey, how did you come up with this? You know, do you have any data that you want to share with me? Because if I know, especially if it's going to like, I don't even know how they came up with that, right? And if it's a VA appraisal, you're dealing with Tidewater. Tidewater is you have 2 days to supply me with comp data. If you're on the selling side, you don't see the report. So you can be giving me comps that I already have. And so we're going to kind of go over the importance of that too when it comes to zoning and those kind of things. But yes, 60 to 70%. I think now that the market is slowing down a little bit, they have time. Look, send your assistant, send a team member, send someone, a body that you want to, because look, I'll be honest, guys, I don't have time to look at 50 comps. I just don't. Like if you guys are going on a date tonight, you're like, hey babe, like let's go get the best, let's go get Indian. You're gonna Google best Indian in 92103. It's gonna give you a bunch of choices. If you get past number 3, there's a problem, right? So I'm the same way. On the remarks section on MLS, I'm just plugging it in. If it's remodeled home, I'm just putting remodel in that remark section and all those properties pop up. So I really want to only have time for like 15 comps. We're just busy, right? So really the way and it goes back to the agent, how you describe a property is what we're looking for. And I get you only have a certain number of characters, use the supplemental page, meet the appraiser, say, hey, this can fit in the MLS. Here's something else I wanted to add. And hopefully no one's doing it at this point, but I still see those photos. It looks like it's been shot on like the iPhone 1 and it's like super small. I'm like, it is terrible. I don't care who you use. I mean, if I can't see what the description says, I can't validate that that's what that property looks like. Right? So we're going, not a good comp, move on, even though it may be. So those pictures matter too. When I say mile radius, I really say subdivision as well. If you're 92116, we're in Kensington, a mile will get you to Normal Heights, easy, right? So we don't want to use Normal Heights. Or if you're in University Heights and all those different things. So try to stay within that subdivision first. And especially when you're dealing with condos, they want us to use 2 sales inside of development before we go outside of development. Okay? And there's scenarios where there's not enough market data that are recent within that development. Then you can use the competing, but then I have to go back to when the last sale happened in my subject development and look at which development I'm comparing to, and then make those adjustment factors, what was happening in market A or market B or development A, development B. Yes, one, and then.
Well, I was gonna ask if it's been a year and a half or 2 years since something is sold, we take into account the percent increase of the market the area.
Yes, so there's two things going on. If it's a condo, let's say my subject property is Sea Breeze condo and I'm comparing it to Ocean Breeze, right? I'm gonna go back a year and a half and say, what was happening between these two, my subject development and the competing development? Let's say my subject was selling at 3% higher. I can use the recent sale of Ocean Breeze recent and to make a 3% adjustment. If I see that on trend.
But not go back 2 years to the one that sold in the same development and then take into account what.
I can. I'm gonna charge more, right? Be honest, if the lenders will approve that charge, but yes, you can and see what, and I'll show you here what I have, what the market's doing month by month, quarter by quarter, annual by annual to see if you guys can use that same information that I have. I don't have anything that you guys don't. Actually, I have like tax record sales. But we use the MLS as well, so I'm not making up anything. We just how we analyze it differently, maybe appraiser or realtor. We don't always agree, but it's a fun conversation.
Questions?
Yes.
You're in the same subdivision or condo complex, I'm selling a 2-bedroom, and we haven't seen a 2-bedroom sell in 5 years, but we've got several, maybe 4 bedrooms.
Yeah.
I know you can go up and down sunlight, can you use those 2 bedrooms percentage wise, and again, go back a year and a half? What was the price difference between the 2 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms back then? Bring it forward and the same contrast.
Smart group. You can, the easier thing to do, right, instead of going back 5 years, is seeing in the competing development that you're choosing those comps from, what are the difference between 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms? If an adjustment factor is 35 grand, I can use the 3 bedrooms, but I'm adjusting it 35 grand for the difference in bedroom count or size or a combination of the two. Yeah. Months back, just like what I stated earlier, you can go up to 6 months back. Hopefully no one's going back November for data, but you can stay within 60 days again, because by the time that I come out, that 60-day comp is probably 3-4 months. Yes.
But what if you don't have a lot of comps, like 36 days, you have to go back further or reach out to the larger geographic area? Then we need to.
I'm going to show you in the next 2 slides. Yeah, there's always comps. It might not be the comp that you want that will support the list price that your clients want.
Right.
There's 2 different factors going on there, and we could just push on from there. So this is comparable sales, and then there's what I like to call competitive guidelines, right? There's comparable, competitive. Competitive is I appraise a home in Mission Beach, right? On the boardwalk. The home sits on the boardwalk. If there wasn't another recent sale on Mission Beach on the boardwalk, I can go clear up to Carlsbad, 35 miles north, that has a home on the boardwalk and see how that property Carlsbad is treated from one on the boardwalk versus one facing the alley across the street, and use that same methodology at my home, that property in Mission Beach. Or go back in time and all those kind of different things. I don't know what I just did. It'd be that.
Sorry, I was trying to share it to our Zoomers.
Those Zoomers, you need to be present. No, I'm just kidding. So that's what I would do as far as location goes. And then there's nope, backwards. There it is. And then there's like location, that's location. So when it says the distance, as an appraiser, we can use whatever we need to do in order to have a credible result for distance. Doesn't matter how far and wide we go. So if your property is, whether it's like oceanfront, has tennis courts, been tricked out, has all these different features, I need to find that property. Nowadays, we have homes with ADUs, and things of that nature. So you may not have that within that mile radius. So if I have to go 3-5 miles out, I have to explain that to the lender why I'm deviating from, the mile radius. But the same thing, if you guys have to assume that the appraiser coming out doesn't know what they're doing, lazy, and just not really interested in your property specifically. You have to prepare for that. So you guys have to nerd out yourselves on your own properties and do the homework, just the same as I do. After anticipate, like, the realtor I'm gonna meet may not know what's going on, right? So you guys go to caravans, you walk the properties. Real estate, you have to feel the space. So if you know something about a layout that I don't know, based on the photos, that's kind of information that we may need. Like, hey, this layout was like this one was it maybe a galley kitchen, or, this was more open concept. And I was talking to Manny about that earlier. He had a property that he's gonna have on the market, or maybe it is already, he's getting an offer. And it's an attic, so it's a 1920s home, craftsman, and there's 2 bedrooms in the attic spaces. There's a new thing called ANSI, which dropped April 1st of 2022. And how we measure spaces, so it has to be 7 ceiling height, things like that. So when it comes to A-frame finished attic spaces, what appraisers will use as square footage versus not, what constitutes into a bedroom, window, door, closet. The size of the window, that's gonna be an interesting one. So, those are kind of things that you guys really want to start paying attention to when it comes to what home you're marketing, and then how the appraisal effect will be on that. So, any questions before we move on? So I like to call this the realtor versus appraiser effect, because typically, when you're dealing with price per square foot, right? Okay. This is how typically it's done, right? Now I get if a home has a pool or maybe a recent remodel, but typically if you have a 2,000 square foot house and the average price per square foot in that market area is $500, you go, this home is gonna be listed for $1 million, right? The problem is when you're on that listing appointment, the homeowner's gonna go, well, the neighbor's house down the street is 1,800 square feet. So it's the difference of 200 square feet, and they're looking for an adjustment factor between their home and the neighbor's at $100,000. Because that's the math, right? You get $500 a square foot, difference of 200 square feet, you're like, that's $1,000. I'm $100,000. How appraisers typically look at that is about 15 to 20%. So the square footage alone is about 15 to 20% of the overall price per square feet. And it'll look something like that. Next slide. Thank you. Here's what that looks like. So it's safe to say when you guys get this interaction with your buyers or your clients, think of it as about 15 to 20% of the overall price per square foot. And the reason being is, if you guys have all seen the appraisal report, next slide, please. You guys like the page where the comps are at and all the adjustments are, we call that the sales comparison grid. Okay. Now every line is a unit of comparison. We have to divide that $500 a square foot, $1,000 a square foot between 18 and 20 different items. It's not just square foot alone. We're looking at lot size, we're looking at the condition of the home, bedroom count, bathroom count. Does it have amenities like a pool? Does it have a view? If it's a condo, what floor is it on? Is it an end unit, interior unit? Like all of that is within price per square foot. So it's not solely going to one thing. Make sense? Smarter. Zoning. Okay. So I don't get many rebuttals because we're just so awesome. But I did get one recently, and hopefully the realtor's not in this room, but maybe they are, maybe even better. I appraised the property and the zoning was RM 2-5. So what RM 2-5 says is minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet, but you can have one dwelling unit for every 3,000 square feet of lot size. Okay. This property was 2,800 square feet. Okay, so they were what we call legal non-conforming. At one point they were legal, now they're non-conforming. I'm sorry, it's 1,500 square feet of one dwelling for 1,500 square feet. So they had a duplex. Now the realtor had a lot of choice words for me. We'll avoid those choice words because I didn't use a comp on the same street. They go, oh, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't use, he's not using a comp on the same street. There's a reason why to do that. Because that property had a lot size of 6,000 square feet. So they can have 4 units on that property. They can't even have more than the 2 that they already have. They're legal non-conforming. And the price reflected that because they sold it as, hey, you can add 2 more units on this dwelling. So one thing you guys have to understand, if you're in a residential RM zone, there's no R1. I know sometimes you see R1, that's not San Diego. Okay, RS is going to be your residential single family. You have 1-1 to like 1-9 or whatnot. The standard single family lot should be the most you're going to see is a RS 1-7, which is minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. We all know you can have an ADU, any single family square foot lot, all those kind of good things. Even if you're far as maxed out, San Diego City will still allow you to have up to an 800 square foot ADU, all those kind of things, and we can do a separate ADU class on that, but really pay attention to zoning because that can make or break your deal, okay? Okay, so here's what you guys can do. Here's 5 steps that you can do on your own MLS, right? That will allow you to anticipate if your market is declining, increasing, stable, all those kind of fun things. You can go to the next slide, and this is what it should look like on your MLS, right? So what it looks like? Yeah. Okay. So what we do, my team, what we do is we first look at the entire year, right? We want to look at the annual like projection, then we break it up like, you know, per quarter and then per month to anticipate what the market is actually doing. And I think it's really important because we're making adjustment factors not on the sale date, but the contract date. So during COVID, you were getting an extra month of adjustment factors, but now that in some markets it's going down, it's hitting you in an additional month because it's based on contract date, not sale date. Really important. You go to the next slide, Evie. I feel like you're my own like fan of Brown. All right, here we go. So I did Bay Park, but really important when you look at Bay Park, it will include Loma Portal, although that's a part of Point Loma, but in 1910 across that way, you'll have Loma Portal included. So on your MLS, when you're looking at data sets, you really want to stay tight, right? I'm just showing you guys big examples of zip codes, but if you know a specific neighborhood, you want to be able to go back one page on your MLS if you can. Under, oh, it's not shown here, but under neighborhood, you're going to put neighborhood, okay, to specify that neighborhood. So it doesn't give you all of like 19103 or all of 9116. You can go back. So Bay Park, here's what's happening. Here's what's really interesting to watch. Over the year, it's 1.35, right? That was the annual median value. Now on the MLS on that top toolbar, it's going to give you minimum, maximum, average, and then median value. You want to stick to median, not average. It'll throw everything off. What I found important was, again, if you're going back 3-4 months for comps, in this scenario, you're missing out because the market in the last 30 days has jumped up. Now that could be indicative to what's happening in rates, but it went from 1.97, 1.2 to 1.5. Okay. Something else to pay attention to is if there's a new construction in that neighborhood, you want to avoid that if your comp is not like a 2020 build. If you're dealing with 1940s, you guys can get it really tight to go, hey, I'm going to look for 1930s to 1950 homes or whatnot. It'll really like dial in this data set. But what's really good too is the list to sale ratio was the same. So what people or agents were listing their properties for, they were also selling at the same amount, which is a good thing. But as an appraiser, we're looking at where it says like, you know, drop -6%, it went up 20%. We're looking at that to see, is there enough of a trend on our adjustments to make a positive, a negative, or no adjustment based on growth in the market? One thing that I will tell you is we don't care about offers. You can stop saying, because it doesn't matter. Oh, we have 30 offers on this house. Yeah, great. I know people are feeling like they're priced out already. We know when the rates were really low, inventory was high, of course you have 30 offers, right? But offers don't sell properties and they're not closed sales. We don't base our appraisals on pending sales or active listings. Those are just trends. They're pending for a reason. We don't know why they're pending. Could be an inspection, could be negotiations, could be, you know, whatever it is. So if we start basing our values on pending sales, let's say, oh, a home is pending for 1.3. and inspections come back and actually sell for 1.15, then we just set the market by 150 grand, right? So only closed sales is what we're basing that property on. One thing I will add before I move on to another market. Today is the 3rd. I love the month when it's like Monday is the 1st. Isn't that the great? At least for the first week, you know what day it is always. All right, so today's the 3rd. If you know a home is closing on the 4th, like if I called you today and I go, hey Bridget, I'm here to schedule your appraisal, and you're like, oh, cool, let's schedule it tomorrow. Perfect, 12 o'clock. But you know something's closing on Friday the 5th, don't schedule the appraisal. You could be honest, like, hey, you know what? I talked to an agent, I know a comp is going to close in 2 days. Can we set this appraisal for Saturday or Monday, just so I know it's going to help me as a comp? Yeah, no problem. You can say those words, it's okay. So I've done it because there's something called the effective date. The date that I go out and appraise that property is the effective date. I cannot change that. I'm not a future teller. I can't tell you what's gonna happen the following day. So if you want me to come back, it's gonna be another fee for me to come back and pretend that I didn't see that home first. Sorry. So save your clients the headache, the dollars, the extra time, and if it's FHA, I think that the FHA number is stuck with you for what, 6 months, is it? So you really don't want to start setting up appointments when you know homes are going to close. Obviously, I know you guys have contingency periods, but balance that out with setting the appraisal when you know something's going to close in your neighborhood.
Okay,
Yes, please.
I'm Katie Rose. Hi.
Hey, Rose.
I had a property that was listed at 525. And we got offers up to like 607, something like that. So the appraiser called me and asked me, why are you in contract for 600 something when you're listed at 525? And I shared with him all the offers that I got that were 575, 599 up in that area. And he said that mattered. So but you're saying it doesn't matter what offers you get. Help me understand. This has happened before and it worked in our favor too. Here, I'm showing them all the multiple offers that are way up over and they're saying that help. So help me understand your perspective.
So market, that's a good question. Market value is market value. Okay. Now, some agents will list low to create that fee and maybe get buyers who and maybe get buyers that can afford 600, 610. But they're like, well, if someone typically what I'm seeing now, someone can afford 650, maybe looking at homes at 550 for the bid period, right? What I'm looking at as an appraiser is what is market value? If market value is at 610 and you list at 525 to get a lot of offers, great. Maybe that's a way for the agent to go, oh, now I have a couple of people that weren't represented to get them in my pocket and I can help them find the next property. There's many things. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter what you list at, it's what the comp support. I think the biggest misconception is that appraisals go out to debunk value. No, in a refinance scenario, there's no number to look at, but market value is market value. We don't appraise, or you should not appraise a home differently to refi or purchase. If there's a purchase 525, is there enough market data to support that number? If there is, perfect. I appraise homes all the time, and I go, wow, that agent left money on the table. Because my job is not to hit a number. My job is to figure out, reconcile market value, because I don't know what the buyer's going to do with that equity, right? So that appraiser may be asking as far as like, why was this so low and all the else over here? It depends. What are the? It's not about the offers. If all the comp data supported 525 or 575, whatever it was, I can't appraise it for 610 just because the offers are there. Yeah, there's market, there's market influence in regards to, yes, a lot of interest because everyone's just feeling priced out. This is my time to buy. I'm just going to put in an offer. And if it was really non-contingent on appraisal, that would be in the contract. We're willing to pay 5% above appraised value or appraisal, no appraisal contingency, which is fine. But if it's based on the appraisal, and people will do that, they'll put a high offer and wait for the appraisal to come back. Well, let's negotiate to the appraised value and then try to figure out a nice sweet spot, right? They just want you to pick their offer as the highest. And they go, well, the appraisal came in at 550. I know I offered 607. Can we meet somewhere in the middle? And then they pay 25 grand over asking, right? But the next time we appraise that property, there's a difference between market value and market price. Market value is what most people are willing to pay for under normal circumstances, not under duress, right? So the next time around, and you have what we call like cluster of sales and then these outliers, right? So the cluster of sales may be at 525, 530, 540, 515, and then you have like this 625 and then this 330. Now I call the agent, hey, why did that sell for 625? Everything else is clustered around here. Oh, that person paid 50 grand over asking. Perfect. So we discounted 50 grand. We can use it as a comp. We just discounted 50 grand and say the market value for that is 575. It's not 625. So we look at either we don't use the outliers or we question why is that happening? During COVID, people were putting 100 grand over, actually 300,000 over asking. That's not market value. It's just willing. Someone's like, oh, I always want to go on the street. I'm going to buy this no matter what. Right? So that's what we always have to balance as an appraiser. We want to know all the information first before we go, okay, let's figure this out. We're always solving for X. I always tell my teammates, I go, guys, that's our entire job is solving for X. There's a problem, how do we solve it? What are we missing? What's the missing piece? So depending, it doesn't matter really how you market it. If you're savvy enough to know what's going on, you're like, okay, I know what's happening in this market. I know what, what's happening, you should stay hip to what's happening with rates and, Russia or banks are collapsing, the rates drop, and you see a spike in things, and that's probably what you see here as well. Oh, new market. That's probably what you're seeing when you see the big growth. Oh, that's what happened last month. The Feds adjusted that rate, so everything spiked up in activity. Or I call, loan officers and I go, hey, what are the apps like this month? Oh, they're up like 20%. Oh, okay. It's gonna be a lot of activity. Like you should know what's going on in the full scope of things in real estate. So
Apps or appraisals?
I'm sorry.
You said, what are the apps?
Yeah, applications,
Okay.
like, hey, oh yeah, we had like another, like, they're up 20%, meaning, oh, it's gonna be a lot of activity out there, so. So I want to show you real quick here too as well. I did 2 condos. I did condos in the same market, but I wanted to, I think this is really interesting when I'm going back to, when I say subdivision, not just a mile, right? So I have, this is Hillcrest. It's 1903, not Bakersfield and not Mission Hills. Okay, really important. So again, 684, then it dropped between November to February, drops 25 grand overall. Now, again, this is just all condos in 1903. If you have a specific development, you can just put your development, how that rates and everything else. Maybe your development is the highest one, maybe it's the lowest. You have to be honest with yourself, right? Because again, for the lenders, we have to choose 2 inside that in that condo development and then outside. Yes.
But what if there's only one bedroom condo in the whole building? And you're going back to the cost, there's 2 bedrooms. How to go with square footage,
Okay.
price per square. footage.
You're telling me your subject property that you're listing or whatnot is a 1-bedroom, and there's no other 1-bedrooms in that development. That's the only 1-bedroom.
Well, it's not the only one, it's the only one that shows, like, nothing else is sold as a 1-bedroom.
How long are we going back? Like when?
I mean, going back like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
nothing else for 1-bedroom.
Okay. So again, as the appraiser, I don't expect you guys to do that, but this is part of my job. Because I have to solve for X, right? So I go back 2 years, I go back 3 years, okay? It's not like all of a sudden 1-bedrooms are more, sought after than what it was 2 years ago. They're always going to be the same kind of one trend. So I go back 2-3 years, whenever that last sale was, and see what was happening in that market. Now, if I'm going to use a competing development across the street, they also have 1-bedrooms. There are recent ones, and there's one that sold two years ago. I look at both developments. I go, okay, the adjustment factor for this over that is X, and I can use either everything. I'm sorry. The adjustment factor, and I explained to the lender, the last sale in here was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Here's the information about that, but to stay on par, I'm just going to use all recent data and use these adjustment factors for development A, B, C, D, and whatever. They're fine with that. I just have to explain why I'm not using something in there. Look, it's been 2 years. You want me to? No.
Yeah.
I may even throw it in as like a 7th comp, just throw it in to satisfy the lender and explain 0 weight is given to this comp. The market fluctuation over the last couple of years has been like, they're not paying me enough to do that.
But the development seems to be simpler, the comps, what if one building, right across the street is super high end, then the building, that you've got your listing in.
It's what we do every day. It's a rabbit hole and we can create scenarios. What if
Stop looking at the trees.
Yeah, it's okay. I like going off the path, it's to beat it. But the point is, it's like when it's not cookie cutter, it's what we do. Like, I'm not gonna say it's easy for me because I have to sell, like, these are expensive products that we offer, right? But it's what we do every day. So we're used to like really crunching these kind of numbers and going, okay, what about this? What about that? So yeah, whatever the scenario is, we try to go back to when it made sense. When 2 years ago, we analyze that market and then we go back. Like I do trust appraisals. I had to go back to 2010 last week because they never did anything with it. So that's gonna be fun, right? So yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question, Mike Law.
Oh, Mike, what's up, Mike?
How do you feel about appraisal packages from us listing agents? anything you want to see, anything you doesn't want us to waste this time with?
Okay. So I'll be honest with you, Mike, I do love it, but I'm gonna be really honest with you guys. I get all of my appraisals right here, right? I'll just pull up one I just did this morning. I'm super digital. I have a laser that hangs on my pocket. Honestly, when I go to people's houses, they're like, shouldn't you have more stuff? I go, I know. I go, look, when I first started appraising, it was a tape measure, then it was the contractor's wheel, and da. Like now it's like my sketch, photos, everything is done right here. I don't mind you giving me the packet. If I can just get it before I leave, I think that'd be awesome. Because I'm always like, yeah, like I'll take that. And I'm like, can I leave it right here until I leave? You know, so I would say if you see the appraiser coming in with a phone and a laser, say, hey, I have an appraisal package for you. Do you mind if I give it before you leave? We can discuss it. Perfect. Because in the moment, I'm kind of like, I don't want to hold this, you know? So before I used to have a clipboard, I just take it, put it in the clipboard. But yes, I love the appraisal package, but at least I know we're on the same page. What data you're using, and I can tell you real time because I have the comps on my phone and go, oh, I have that one, I have that one, I have that one. I go, hey, my kids love scratch paper, perfect, right? So it's a great way to start the fire, love it. But if we have the same data, we have the same data, right? I've had agents give me stuff like, oh yeah, this one's 5 miles away. I'm like, there's like 8 comps in the same. Why'd you go 5 miles? Maybe it's something that it's just a higher sale. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not there to argue. So, all right, great. And then I just make paper mache and like airplanes and stuff. But yeah, you might give me the comps. All right, so I want to show you guys this. Check out, pay attention to 705. Okay. Remember, this is Hillcrest, not Bakersfield or Mission Hills. We go to the next slide. See the difference, the pop? This is Baker's Hill, not including Mission Hills, not including Hillcrest. We had 705 was the value, the median value for Hillcrest. For Baker's Hill, oh, here's a caveat. So I have an asterisk and it says 817. This is what my point to that is. There was one sale in Baker's Hill. You know this one?
New house.
No, but it is a condo that sold for $3.34 million. Outlier. Everything else is 907, 757, 88, and then you have a 3.3. The 3.3 made that go up to 901, 250. And I go, wow, that's a huge jump. And then I took it out because it's just a one-off. Remember, it's an outlier. Okay, it's an outlier. Everything else is clustered around the 9s, and so then it dropped to 817. I wanted to be honest with you guys, but remember the market in Hillcrest was 705. This was 817. So if you're bordering Hillcrest and Baker's Hill, and you're like, well, I'm going to dip into Baker's Hill, then it's going to make you, oh yeah, but then when the appraiser comes, shock everyone. They don't know what they're doing. They brought me in, yeah, because you're in Hillcrest, you're not in Baker's Hill. Or if you're in Mission Hills and not, you know what I mean? So what's really important, I'm truly trying to hone in is keep it tight. You know, stop trying to go to other markets. You know, if you're in a bordering town, stay within that bordering town because that might be more indicative to what's going on in Bakersfield proper or Hillcrest proper. Yes.
Another question. It's been a long time. I haven't seen a while. So I had a house in Spring Valley, and it was a circle. And literally a circle. Yeah, and so I mean, I remember when we lost her, I think like, I don't know, I don't know what the number is, because I was trying to play. My plan is like, look, at this point, we're on the game. I think so, is then we follow. If you get something so unusual like that, because I haven't broken in so many stupid things called phones.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen one of those.
Yeah, I've appraised a dog home. Yeah.
They're dumb. But they're so don't make this freaking work out, but in Spring Valley outlet, I mean, like when you have something so weird, like let's say we're gonna go listen to that. I mean, what's the best funny? Because I just bring the door. Call me.
Call it a break.
That was awesome. I love that. Those are tough. Where else? Where do you find them? One, right? Those are a lot of issues. How do you measure those? You first got to create a square in a circular home. And then it's like it's going back to math and like literally you're like, okay, this is like, I'm back in the 6th grade and I'm creating the square footage because it's circular. It's a whole thing. They're headaches. You want to do what we call a pre-list. You don't want to guess. You want to do everything up front. You don't have to hire me, any appraiser that you're comfortable with. You want to do everything up front. Because that's going to, like, if I come into a circular home and someone got it appraised and they did all the work for me, I'm like, oh yeah, share that with me. I'm gonna take my peers' info, I'm gonna look at it, I'm like, oh, this is great, I'm gonna use it. Right, because I don't want to spend days and days and days on end trying to find the data, the adjustment factors, measure this thing, so we will do that. You know, I'll use my peers, I'll look at measurements that they've gotten appraised before. We do that kind of stuff, but if I look at it like, I don't think this is supportive, then I'm gonna do my own evaluation. But yeah, when it comes to cookie cutters, you don't need, you guys are just fine. But specific things like dome homes that are done, definitely you wanna call someone out. Yes.
We got a question in the chat real quick. Can you please explain when we gave that example of adjusting $50,000 down for an outlier home that's sold for $625, while the rest of the comps is sort of $575-ish? Because that $625 listing agent said the buyer paid $50,000 what they're asking. So you would adjust it down $50,000? Does that mean that the buyer paid $50,000 over the appraisal?
Correct. So the way it works in an appraisal world is if let's say you have your subject property, if something is superior to the subject, we make a negative adjustment. I know I'm taking you guys back to real estate school, right? If something is inferior to the subject, we make a positive adjustment to raise it to what this is what it would sell for if this property was like the subject property or this superior comp. If the superior comp wasn't as superior, it would adjust downward. So when it comes to outliers, adjustment factors, whether it's low or high, we make up the difference based on the market exposure, right? If something was a trust sale and wasn't exposed to the market, we can use that sale if there wasn't enough data and make a positive adjustment to lift it up and saying, if it was exposed properly, wasn't sold to the brother, sister, cousin, here's what it probably would have sold for based on condition, size, location, things of that nature. So yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll
I'll-
to follow up with your question. He said, my question is about the distinction between that $625K buyer having paid $50K over the appraisal, not over.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks for the question. The appraised value should always be market value. I say should because, but appraised value is market value. So there's contract price. And then there's appraised value. Sometimes those match, sometimes they're below, sometimes they're above. When someone pays 50 grand over the appraised value, then we discount that because it's shown as an outlier when we're doing comp searches. So when we're doing comparable search, we're going to throw out like, let's say 20 sales, 15 sales. Let's say of those, 20 sales, 2 are clearly, higher than anything else. And a couple others are lower. We see those as outliers, they're not a part of the cluster. So then if we are looking at those outliers, say those outliers are really close to the subject property, maybe it's on the same street, maybe it's across the street, very close, very similar in size, just like everything else, but it's sold higher. If there's a closing price that's higher, then we will have a conversation with the realtor. If there's enough data that we can gather from the realtor to make an adjustment, great. The realtor does not give us a call back, we typically do not use that sale. Because we don't know why that thing closed for what it closed for. So I think it's important to have conversations. If you're, an appraiser is giving you guys a call, we're trying to figure out what's going on. Look, we want things to work out just fine. Don't get me wrong, but we're not here to make up numbers. We're not here to push numbers or to go off a few. So it has to be supported by data because the loans are gonna get sold off in the secondary market. Someone else is gonna be looking at that. There's nothing that we can do here. All right. Maybe go to the next one. I think I have one more. Oh, I just maybe back one. I just want to show Sarah Mesa. As you can see, like the market, so when we're looking at the last 3 months, 960, 935, 930, there's a trend that's happening. It's about, we could maybe see like, hey, I think maybe next month, based on trends, it could be selling at another maybe 1% or 0.5% under what it currently is today in Sierra Mesa, right? So we're always trying to find, there's not always enough data to go, maybe we don't make an adjustment next month because there's not enough. But if I look at between May, what's happening between May and June, and again, it's dropped to 925, and I can say, okay, this market now on par is dropping 0.5% per month. So if something sold, 4 or 5 months ago, that's an adjustment that an appraiser can make on that. Or if you're looking to list that property, go, hey, don't look at 935. Like, no, let's try to list at this price because we know on trend that it's dropping 0.5%. Let's set ourselves up for success. So you go to the next slide. So yeah, here's like a couple things I want you guys to pay attention to. Again, zoning, just so you guys don't have any choice words for me next time this comes up. Subdivision, I think it's really important is to keep your comp selections really tight. Unless you have a scenario like Manny, where he has a craftsman home, bedrooms are upstairs in this loft area. And so you want to find that. So he can go as far as he needs to. He can go to Burlingame, he can go to Grant Hill, he can go to Sherman, wherever he needs to go to find something like that, because that's going to be a problem with the appraisal for bedrooms being on the second floor with ANSI standards with 7.6 height, ceiling height. How much square footage are we really adding to that property? And then again, the complex with the 1 bedroom, that hasn't sold in 3 years and all those kind of fun stuff. And then maybe next slide. Hey, there you go. Look at that. Wow, I'll leave it at that. That's my Instagram. I do a lot of videos on Instagram. If you want to connect with me, it's probably one of the better ways to go. And then here's like other things that I work on. Like I told you guys, we do a lot of trust appraisals. I would say 25% of what we do is like lending, and then the rest is all private deals. So I want to come back and do something with ADUs for you guys, but ADU and SB9 is going to be the hottest thing to go through San Diego. I'll give you a teaser. I just recently did a property. I won't give you the location to even more tease you, but the single family was worth $750,000. Okay, it was on an 18,700 square foot lot. Okay, they use SB9. They subdivide it twice. On SB9, you can divide that property twice. They went 1 and 2. So now split it. Okay. So now each lot now is 6,000 square feet. Right, you're tracking. They build a single family 1,600 square feet with a 525 square foot ADU on top of it. 2 of them. Okay, now we just appraised both those properties at 910. So talk about value add for your clients, right? They went from $750,000 lot to now $2.5 million lot, just like that. You can sell them off, you can manage them yourself. So I think it's fun, like October rolls around, everybody drops off the pumpkins to their clients. I think it's great, but 87% of people do not reuse their realtor. It's the value add that they're not getting back. Right. So if you guys start to look at your client as not as a transaction, but like managing their portfolio, I think that's the better way to go. I know there's young agents in the room, because then when you're like, hey, I sold your property a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and the equity went up like this, let's turn that equity into cash flow. Equity is done. It's over with. It's all about cash flow. Because now with ADUs and SB9, your single family is now becoming multifamily type properties, right? You have income producing. So really start to look at that differently when you're looking at lots, what they're buying. They can create easements like this. It's a whole like lot selection now is going to be more important than anything, because you can maximize that development, and many in the cities are super easy to get those things approved. And a year down the line, you can go from a $750,000 property to a $2.5 million property. Yes.
I would think about appraisal value or feature value. Sorry, I have the rest of the word here. Pools and solar.
Okay. Solar, there's a website called pvvalue.com, like photovoltaic, pvvalue.com. You can register at real estate professionals. They want you really to answer 4 things: size of the solar, size of the inverter, and then the warranties. Typically it's like 20-25 years of the warranties, and then the size of the system. So if you have a solar system that's 6,500 kilowatt, the inverter is probably like 7,000 kilowatt. It just leaves a little more room in case you want to add more panels, right? So if PV value says your solar, if you own it, if you lease it, there's no value because the lenders won't give you value. It's not the appraiser guy, it's Ed and his team. They won't give you value for it, right? So if the PV value says your solar is worth 20 grand, okay? The way appraisers do it is called paired sales analysis. We take, let's say 5 homes, same size with solar, 5 without. If the difference is 15 grand, we're gonna get 15 grand, doesn't matter what the website says. Same scenario, if based on paired sales, there's 25 grand difference between that, we're gonna be 25, you know, the website says 20. So it's paired sales. The same is for pools, there's no look. During COVID, everybody's having COVID babies, I had a COVID pool. My COVID pool is so sexy, let me tell you, it's an amazing pool, I wish I could just throw some photos. Everybody wants to get in my COVID pool. But I spent 85 grand on this pool, when I get it appraised, I got it appraised, they're gonna give me 40, 35, 40 grand. So you're not always gonna get dollar for dollar, it's what the market buyers are willing to pay for that pool in that moment. So today, a pool adjustment could be 50 grand, tomorrow could be 30 grand. If you're in Claremont, you have a pool, that valuation is much different if you're in El Cajon or it's blistering hot in the summer, right? So you have to know market as well. Same thing for AC, but then I just did a video on IG, self-explanatory, follow me if you like. When it comes to RV parking, so like when the property has RV parking, toy parking, in East County, 25 grand, no problem. If you're in PV, not the same valuation, right? So downtown as well, people go 10 grand per floor, probably not. You know, it's probably more like whatever the market's dictating at that time. Right, because you know, 9 floors down, it's like cityscape, 1500, maybe get a view. So there's no, you're not gonna like that in appraisal world in anything, there's no set adjustment factor for anything. Especially like, let's say, I'll close with this, new construction. Let's say if you have a 2,500 square foot house, it's 2 of them. One is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. One is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath with a loft. One is a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. That's usually dictated on how many kids people have. They go, oh, I want a 5-bedroom, I have 3 kids. Oh, I have 2 kids, I want a 4-bedroom with a loft or whatnot. So you're not always getting an adjustment factor on loft versus bedroom unless when it's resold, that there's a clear difference between the two. So that's how you guys can do it as well. Like, oh, let me just, or if someone says, hey, my client has a 3-bedroom, should they turn this office into a bedroom? I don't know. What is it? If the market shows 4 bedrooms, yes, do that. If the market shows 3 bedrooms, don't do that. Leave it as open space because they're not going to give you that value for that 4th bedroom. Cool. Thank you.
It's extremely helpful. Thank you, Cindy, so much. We still have some new followers on Instagram after today's meeting. I'm gonna let everybody on Zoom go. The last thing we're gonna do is have Bridget come up and do the drawing for today, which is only for